Okay, this is just introducing me and what I do. This workshop is going to be how to claim the boundaries in your home and keep the energy transmuted into better energy, like if you have unwanted activity. This doesn't only have to be for like ghost activity. This could also be if you have, some negative Nellies in your family that are, always grumpy, or, I don't want to start trouble where, people are like, you're a negative Nelly, but, this can help that kind of thing, because basically the technique involves using your intention to get rid of what you don't want and putting out good energy to replace what's being taken away. And to tell a little bit about myself, I'm a tarot reader. I've been self-taught since 1989, so I've been doing that a long time, and that's kind of where my spiritual journey started, getting into that. Before that, I was reading a lot about, ghosts and magic and all that kind of stuff since I was about 11 or 12 years old. My earnest study really began with the tarot, though. That was where I stopped dabbling and really started putting an effort into the spiritual side of things. Back in 2008, I had some physical health crises, which led me to study Reiki, which is a form of energy healing. It's a sacred tradition that's been passed down from master to student since like 1900, 1890. That is the technique that I use when I go and perform a house clearing. But you can also simply perform it. I like to call it freelance. You don't have to know Reiki. I do want to start by saying also, if you're in a situation where you're very fearful of what's going on in your house, don't attempt this yourself. Call on either a spiritual leader or someone that can help you feel more confident, because you cannot be coming from a place of fear when you attempt any kind of energy work, because what happens is you just attract more of that energy to you. So I'm going to talk a little bit, when I get into the steps, about how you can prevent yourself from being in that space so that you can accomplish this task, because I do believe we're all capable. I don't want to scare anybody, but I do want to let you know it is a serious matter, and if you are very fearful, don't try it yourself, because that will make a difference. Since learning Reiki, I've also studied several other healing modalities, and also a certified paranormal investigator. I was certified with another organization. I don't consider myself the expert investigator. There's many other people on this team that do a far better job investigating. I kind of am like the metaphysician on the team, where I open up and I act as a medium when we go on investigations and things like that. I'm not real good with the technical equipment. Yes, I've been taught. No, I'm not real swift about it. But it is one of my hats that I've been trained to wear. Okay, so getting into our mini workshop. I've broken it down into 9 simple steps, and right now I'm going to read through them very quickly, and then I'm going to take you through them step by step, and we're going to spend the most amount of time on the section about where you're going to choose and bless your tools, because, that's pretty much what gives you the means to go about getting done what you want to get done. You don't need tools. You can just use your intention, that's fine. But I find most people like using tools. It helps them build their confidence in their ability, and it also helps them feel like they're doing something, because if you don't feel like you're doing anything, you're not going to believe that you're doing something. And yes, this has 100% to do with your belief system. So you need to believe in what you're doing, and you can work within the framework of your own spirituality. If you don't have any belief in a higher power or anything, that's fine too, because I'm going to talk about using love and good energy. And I think we've all had experience with that in our life, where we can have a frame of reference to good energy and love. So the first step that we're going to get into is centering and grounding yourself. And what I mean by that is just getting yourself to a place where you're not real scattered, where you're not real chaotic, where you're going to feel your connection to the earth. You're not going to feel very flighty. You want to just feel that you're in the moment and that you're present. And what I mean by that is, don't be thinking about 50 other things that you have going on that day. if you're sitting down to use your intention to do something, you need to have all of your wits about you when you're doing that, because the intention is what gets it done. So if your mind is elsewhere, not going to work. You really got to be in your space when you're doing this. And what I mean by grounded is just sometimes when people get into meditating or visualizing, they tend to feel lighter, or they get the sensation, some people leave their bodies. They won't remember, like if you're doing a guided meditation, sometimes people don't remember some of what has been said, or whatever. So I'm going to talk about using a technique where you visualize and you it's like sending tree roots down from your feet into the earth. And I'll talk about a couple of other techniques you could use if that one doesn't resonate with you. After you center and ground yourself, you're just going to feel loving, appreciative, peaceful energy. This is what does the work. Feeling bad about things, feeling like a victim, not going to work for you in this situation. I know messed up things can happen when you're dealing with spirit. I know spirits can be intimidating. You need to get out of that space, because if you're going to claim your boundaries, you need to stand in your free will. You need to feel like you have free will. If you do not believe that you have free will, do not attempt this. Oh, the other thing, you're going to hear me giggle a lot. That's just me. Doesn't mean I don't take this seriously. So if you hear me giggle, it's not because I think it's funny. It's just, that's me. I giggle. Like I said, I'm not saying not to attempt it to scare you, but these are things that are important when you're doing this. So if you don't believe in your ability to have free will, if you believe that a spirit can have that power over you, this is not going to work for you, because it's about your beliefs. And the next step that I call an easy step is protecting yourself. How do we protect ourselves? Well, this is where, if you have a belief in the higher power, which leads us to the next step of calling in our reinforcements. If you believe in a higher power, I almost feel like it'll give you a slight advantage. Now, you can say that's because of my own spiritual beliefs. That's fine. The way the spiritual world works has to do very much with what you allow and the way you're open to it affecting the here and now. Now, this is not to say that you invite unwanted activity, because I don't want to give that. I've seen situations where I know the people did not invite the activity and they experience it. So you might be sitting there saying, well, if you could control through free will that you don't want the activity, then why would you even need to do this? Well, sometimes spirits will try to mess with you, and sometimes spirits will try to get your attention. And sometimes you will see a spirit that's not so nice. And for whatever reason, I'm still trying to answer this question. I don't know why they prey on innocent children. Why does anybody prey on an innocent child? I don't get that myself. That's something that makes me angry. This is where we do what we can to, in a sense of a child where you're trying to protect a child. The child's not going to be able to do this for themselves. You can talk to the child about telling them, if a spirit's trying to communicate with them, tell them to say no, things like that. But this is where, if you have a situation involving a child, you're kind of going to have to take hold of the reins and help that situation yourself as the adult. So when you're going to protect yourself, if you have a belief in a higher power, feel that connection. Feel that connection to whatever it is. If it's the universe and your place in the universe, I'm not here to open up a big debate on spiritual beliefs or anything. I think we all know what our personal beliefs are. It's about feeling the connection to whatever it is that you believe in, and know that when you have that connection, and that's a strong connection, that everything that they're trying to tell us in all the different religious stories, there's a kernel of truth that runs through all of them. And for me, what I've seen in my experience is that when you are in that space, you are invincible, because there is a part of us that lives on, which, again, I'm not here to debate that. For the sake of this discussion, we're all going to agree to that spirits exist. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about getting rid of them. But, it is a matter of spirit, so we have to agree that spirits exist. it's, we come at it from both sides. We have skeptics, we have believers in this group, and, we go back and forth all the time. But for the sake of this, you have to believe that even if a spirit intimidates you, and I'm not trying to say, you're going to get killed on the spot or anything, but, you see the movies, you see the horror stories. Even if they killed you, they can't stop your eternal spirit. So that's what they're talking about with the saints. I was raised Catholic. There were a lot of stories of saints being murdered and horrible things done to these people. They were big on the martyrs and things like that. And what the message was, that these people, through their connection to God, you couldn't beat them down, because even if you killed them, what happened? They just became saints. So, they weren't held down for very long. And that's kind of what I'm trying to talk about. I mean, I'm not trying to be like, well, you're going to be invincible and you get to bully spirits, and, because that's not what this is about either. This is about learning to live with spirit, to be responsible. Just like in the term of being an environmental person, where you got to learn to live with all the creatures on the earth. Well, you know what? Whether you want to believe it or not, there's kind of building evidence that there are spirits that affect our lives, and some of it can be explained away, but you'll always get that one case out of however many that is going to be, you're not going to be able to say exactly what it is, and it's going to leave you open to questions. So when it comes to being in the space where you're not going to be intimidated, just trust your connection with whatever your spirituality is in that situation. So when you're protecting yourself, you're going to go to that place, you're going to feel your connection. If you have no belief in a higher power, believe in you. Believe in the ability to choose. Believe in the ability to set forth your destiny and things of that nature. If you subscribe to doing visualization or meditation, you could call down a column of white light. You can have it swirl around your body and form a bubble. This is a technique that I teach. It's sort of like putting an energy bubble around yourself. The bubble spins, it deflects whatever you don't want, and it allows in the good, because you never want to cut yourself off from the good. There's many techniques you could use. You could put yourself in a mirrored cylinder where the mirror reflects everything back. The mirror would be on the outside. I know, Dina, when you give your workshop, you talk about the screen door, which is good because it lets in what you want to let in. It's not to, you don't want to build a brick wall and cut yourself off from everything. You want to put up a shield. And it's really about the intent that you're setting up. And of course, by being in the good place when you set your intent, like when you feel that loving and peaceful energy, that's what's going to be the magic for you. Because when you come from the energy of love, love is the energy. I know I'm going to sound like a hippie here, but they've done experiments, and you can Google it if you want to look up, the 528 megahertz with love frequency. You can Google all this stuff, and it's the strongest energy, the highest vibrational energy they've been able to measure. I'm not a scientist, but there are, if you want to Google it, you can go out there and find all types of experiments. You could look up Heart Math Institute. They do a lot of scientific experiments and all types of experiments with that. So, not trying to turn everybody into a flower child, but just going with something everybody can use. Okay, so once you protected yourself energetically, set up your shield, you're grounded, you're centered, you're coming from a good place, then you can gather and bless your tools. I have a whole bunch of stuff on the table in front of me. I'm not going to itemize it right now. We will come back to this step when I go through each step. This is basically things that are going to help you get the job done. I work with crystals. I work with smudging. You can use holy water. You can use salt. I don't want to sound sacrilegious, but if you want to tell me this is your lucky Bic pen that's going to do the trick, and you want to sanctify it and bless it as your tool, knock yourself out, because I'm not judgmental. You can use whatever you want as your tool. I'm not here to tell you one tool is the correct tool and the other tool is the wrong tool. That's for you to decide. After you get your tools together, you would basically do a walkthrough of your space. If you're going to be smudging, which we'll get into all the different smudges you could use. I personally smudge if the person wants me to smudge. Sometimes you're going into a home where people have allergies. They don't want that in their atmosphere. So you don't have to smudge. Like I said, you don't have to use the tools. I find that the beliefs in the healing properties of the plants and the substances that you burn add something to the experience, Depends on what your belief system is. As you're doing your walkthrough, you're holding the intention that you want to release all unwanted energies, anything negative, anything harmful. This is the only time I even want you to let negativity enter your mind while you're doing this, because you don't want to spend too much time dwelling on the negative. You want to spend more time dwelling on the positive, dwelling on the love, dwelling on joy, because that's what you want to put out. You don't want to put out more of, terrible spirits that are harassing you and things like that. But you will hold the intention that all those things are to leave. And if they are not of the energy of love, peace, and joy, that they are not going to stay. Because you are going to joy bomb and love bomb the place when you're done, and there's not going to be any room for any of that energy. Because as your intention, and like I said, as you're calling in, I glossed over the step of calling in your reinforcements, but that dovetails with your spirituality. If you believe in angels, you're going to ask the angels to help you. If you believe in God, you ask God to help you. I mean, you can call on your Aunt Mary, who passed away 5 years ago, to help you. That's fine. Anybody that you trust that is of a spiritual nature, I believe that they do help. I mean, you can call me hokey, that's okay. You don't have to believe what I believe. I don't care if everybody thinks I have 5 heads. I've come to terms with that. But I call on ascended masters, I call on avatars, I call on angels, archangels, devic spirits, any high healing being of light. I leave the invitation open to all. And, you might be surprised sometimes, if you open yourself up to these energies, the type of experiences you start to have. I don't recommend opening yourself up to the spirit you're trying to clear, however. You're not, this task is not about communicating with spirit. You, at this point, really don't want them, you don't want to invite them to communicate with you. If you did have a situation where you wanted that to happen, do that before you do the clearing. And once you do the clearing, you're saying, that's it. You're not gonna be like, hey, come back in 10 minutes. You want them to go, and you're setting the boundary. So if there was a situation where you wanted to collect evidence or have a medium come in and try to get communication going, do all that beforehand, I know our team, as part of private investigations, I offer, if the homeowner wants a clearing done after we investigate, I'll do the clearing. Obviously, we want to investigate before we do the clearing because, but, it's not a situation where you're going to go in and you're going to do this clearing and then you're going to want to find out who's there. Do that before, don't be, at this point, you're talking to only the ones that are going to help you with the task, and that would be, the high healing beings of light or the helpful beings, not the ones that are doing the antagonizing or the intimidating. So once you're doing the walkthrough and you're holding the intention that everything that is unwanted must leave, you'll be fine with that. And after, you've gone through the entire space or whatever, you would sit at the center of the space, pick a centralized location. Like if I'm doing a house, I like to plant my butt on the stairs, and I like to sit so that I'm nice and square, both my feet are flat. I like to really be grounded. Like I said, I use Reiki. I'm not here to train everybody to do Reiki in a half hour. I mean, if you're interested in that, see me privately. We could discuss classes and how much they cost and everything. But what you are capable of doing is emitting good energy and emitting loving energy. I mean, again, we need to believe in this sense that we can affect the energy around us. And for some people that might be a stretch. I understand that. But again, Google it. There are experiments being done by far smarter people than me, and they talk about having a group of 8 people, just 8 people meditating on peace, how it affects the crime levels in major cities, how it brings the crime rate down. There's stuff out there that you could find about the way, I don't know if everybody, this kind of is related, but not exactly, the 100th monkey effect, where after they've tracked, like, there's the island with the monkeys washing the potatoes, and I'm terrible at punchlines, but basically they were giving these monkeys dirty sweet potatoes, and a couple of them realized that if they put the sweet potato in the ocean, that it tasted better when they ate it. So they watched, the older monkeys learn from the younger monkeys in this situation, and then before you know it, monkeys on other islands that had no exposure to the original monkeys were washing their potatoes. And this is something that's unexplainable unless you get into the theories of morphic resonance and things like that. If you look up Rupert Sheldrake, you could see those theories. But there's something to be said that, you could sit there and say, well, how is me putting out good energy going to affect, the energy of the space in my home? You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. And the more people that do that, before you know it, there's no issue anymore. And the more people that get into that, again, I don't want to make everybody, flower power and, meditate and peace hippie stuff, but it really says a lot for just the way people end up treating each other, because when more people are coming from that space, it's a lot harder to be rude and mean and nasty to people, when you're in that space. So you're going to plant yourself in the middle of the property, and you're going to just emit this, you're going to go to your happy place. Think about things that are joyful to you. Don't think about the things that are stressing you out at this point. Go to a place of, like, if you have a pet and you feel unconditional love for the pet, or, unconditional love for your child. You want to really go to a place where you're not going to be clouded by all the things that stress you out and everything else. So as you're emitting this appreciative energy and the joy, you can say any special prayers that you want. You're going to ask all your reinforcements, if you called any in, to seal the boundaries of your space, to protect the boundaries of your space, and to hold that space for you so that nothing comes back and, affects that. And then you can thank your reinforcements, and then you simply affirm the whole entire process by saying, and so it is. So those are the easy steps. Like I said, we're going to go through step by step, and you're going to get to ask questions. And I wanted to make sure I got everything in because, we have limited time here. But easy, yes. Can you all do it? Yes. Is it for everybody to attempt? Not if you feel intimidated. That's the only caveat. But, all right. So, did anybody have any questions about centering and grounding yourself? Or would you like me to go over any techniques or anything like that? Anyone? Yes.
Talk about removing negativity.
Yes.
But what about removing intensity? Where you want to do something so much you're over-focusing.
Well, if it's an unwanted energy, just hold the intent that you want to release that. If you don't see it necessarily as negativity, phrase it as unwanted energy. It doesn't have to be something that's blatantly seen as negative. It's about your intent. So it's whatever you're holding in your thoughts. Like you could use the word, because words don't always convey thoughts. But you can use the word, I'd like to remove any negativity, negative energy, negative entities, negative hidden entities, demons, gremlins, negative beings, resistance, fear, frustration. Why does it sound like, because this is something I recite when I'm doing this. Yes, I have memorized it. It becomes second nature when you do it enough. So it's the words you choose, but it's also the thoughts that they elicit from you. So when I'm thinking of negativity, negative energy, negative entities, I'm thinking of anything that would fall under that umbrella, because it's much broader than just the literal meaning of each word. So, it's whatever you want to set as your intention. That's the important thing. And like I said, we're going to get into tools, but you don't even really need the tools. You can just use your intent, say, I'm getting rid of what I don't want and I'm putting out good, and that'll do the same trick. I mean, I find most people like the bells and whistles. Especially if I'm showing up to do something for them, they want to see that I'm doing something. Because I can do all this sitting on my couch at home and I don't have to go on location. I use my Reiki. But will that work for everybody? If they believe it works. Because not everybody's going to believe that. I've had situations where somebody says, I've done this myself and they've told me that, and and I tell them, well, that's what I would recommend you do. I would come there, I would do the same thing. Would you like me to do it for free, long distance? And they say, well, no, but if you come here, I'll pay you to do it. Well, I'm telling you, you A, just did what I would come and do in person, and B, I can reinforce it from here. I don't need to come there. But if you really want to pay me for my time, you know what I'm saying? People, you need to believe in yourself. That's what this is about. This is the whole reason I'm teaching this workshop, because I see people, you know, I go to this meeting, I go to the meeting down in Whippany, and, you know, you meet people and no one has ever told them, you know, stand in your power. You know, you can do this. You know, sometimes if people are made to feel that they need a priest to do this, or they need somebody who's more magic than they are. No. You know, I believe we all have this ability, and, you know, it's just a matter of, can we step out of fear and can we step into love? And I think we all can. You know, some of us may not believe that right away, but, you know, especially if they've got a spirit that's been intimidating them for a long time, you know. But I do find that even in situations where I go, like, say they are in fear and they want me to come and do it, I'll do it the initial time, and then they're fine with upkeep on their own, you know, so. But, okay, so like I said, centering and grounding, you're just getting in your happy place, you're keeping your feet on the ground, you're being practical, you know, you're not going out and putting your ego coat on and saying, well, I'm going to bully this spirit into submission. No. You know, hey, you want to do that? I don't want to hear the phone call when it doesn't work out for you. Because, you know, if you're going to come at it with anything but love, you might get a challenge, you know. The second step of feel loving, appreciative, peaceful energy, connect to your spiritual nature, feel your cosmic nature, feel your connection. Believe in your own ability to choose your destiny and free will. Any questions on that? That's pretty self-explanatory. We all believe in free will, right? I hope. I see some people that look like they might be on the fence. Or he's like, protect yourself energetically. Just, you know, stand in your power. Believe in yourself. You know, take precautions. Use your intention to you know, see it like, because things can come at you. You may not be able to stop the attack, but you sure as heck can, you know, rise up and shake it off like a duck shaking off water, you know. Use any visualization that works for you. If the duck shaking off water works for you, use that. Anything. It's about you setting up something energetically. It's all about your energy field. And you may not believe it, but I do. I've seen the experiments, and I've seen people who, you know, do this stuff, and it definitely does work. Okay, call in your reinforcements. Any questions on that? You all have reinforcements? I think you're at a slight advantage if you do. They do some neat stuff for you. They help you out with karma and things like that. Oh, that's the other thing I did want to mention. I don't recommend that, because I'm talking about clearing your own space now. I don't recommend that, you know, after this workshop, you're like, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, that's great. I want you to have confidence. I want you to be able to do it. But I don't want you to take it upon yourself to go and clear other people. Like, if somebody asks you for help, that's one thing. But, like, I don't just go willy-nilly clearing stuff. Like, I don't look at a place and say, that place looks like it's got some crappy energy. No. I only do it if people ask me. Why do I do that? Because I believe in karma. And I do believe that the techniques I use, because I call upon the angels and things like that, and it kind of releases the karma from me taking it on myself. And the fact that the person who the space belongs to has asked me to do it on their behalf. If I went around taking it upon myself, then I do believe there would be karma for me to pay. And if somebody else's journey involves that type of activity and that type of experience, who am I to take that away from them? You know, so you kind of got to be careful with using this. You don't want to just, you know, put on your Superman cape and go out there and be like, you know, the space clearer of the world, you know. I mean, if that is your calling, you know, I don't know. But, you know, don't take it upon yourself, because I do believe there is karma involved. Okay, so... Okay, gather and bless your tools. This is where we're going to spend the most time on. I have in front of me a whole bunch of tools. The first thing we're going to talk about is smudging. The art of smudging is when you take any one of these very pungent smelling, some of them are herbs, some of them are wood. One of them, this is a resin that comes from trees. This is dried sage. All of these smell very pungent. They smell very different. I wish I could light each one here so you could experience it for yourself, because that may determine what you would choose to use, but I really can't, you know, because firing it all up in here. But the way these work, like with the sage, it comes in a big bundle or smaller bundles. I like to buy the big bundle because I get a lot of use out of it. I actually unbundle it and I'll take smaller pieces like this if I'm going to, you know, because if you light the big bundle, sometimes it's hard to put it out. And, you know, if I'm going to go through a house, I find a piece like this will usually last me the whole house. You would hold the lighter to it, or you could even do it over a candle, because sometimes the lighter gets real hot and it'll burn your finger if you try to relight it. You let it flame up, it'll catch fire, and then you sort of, if it's burning too fast, you kind of can like blow on it a little bit or wave it. You're going to have a dish. I do have supplies for sale if anybody wants to buy them at the end of the workshop. I don't have, you know, everything of everything. You kind of have to decide which one you want to buy. I only have one of these because these were more expensive. I couldn't buy a whole bunch. This is an abalone shell, and you can, I use this clay pot for my own personal, this is my personal one, but a lot of people like to use the abalone shell because it brings in the element of the water as well. Like if you're working with the elements, you know, earth, wind, fire, and air. I mean, earth, wind, fire, and water. So this would bring in, you know, the vibration of the water. And this would just be where you would rest. Whenever you're burning sage, I totally recommend having a plate or something under it, because it is going to ash. And, you know, sometimes the embers will be burning, so you want to be careful with it. And you can use the abalone shell, or you can use one of these, like a terracotta clay thing. I happen to like this one because this also works when I'm burning the charcoal, which would be used with either the wood shavings or, what did I do with it? The copal. You would, with the charcoal gets very hot, so you need something that's not going to break. Because if you put it on a regular dish, I've broken, you know, glass-baked dishes and ceramic things like that. So, have you ever burned the charcoal in a shell?
No.
It doesn't work?
No.
Okay. The charcoal can also, I have the little cauldron, yeah. But I know you can do the charcoal in this too. But I don't have any of those for sale. That's mine. Sorry. But yeah, so with the sage, you would light it, let it burn, and then you kind of blow it out, but it's going to smolder. You can use feathers. You don't have to use feathers. You can use your hand. I also, if I'm smudging people, I use my wand with the feathers. Selenite wand. I'm very much about the crystals. We're going to get into that in a minute. Selenite is very cleansing for people's auras. So if I'm smudging people, you know, because if you're having a lot of people come to your house, and, you know, this is pretty common in the circles I run in, you go to a place for whatever, you know, group meditation or anything, they're going to smudge you when you walk in. They're going to clean everybody off as they're walking in. So they're going to have some sage going, they're going to have some feathers, and as the people are coming in, they're just cleaning them up, cleaning up their aura, you know, front and back, and then they come in, whatever. So for our purposes, you're going to be doing that as you walk through the house, you know, go into each room, you know, let all the smoke get into the corners. When I do it long distance, I burn it. Obviously, I'm not on location, but I'll burn it in my house. And you'd be surprised. Sometimes that sage goes up real quick. Sometimes it burns real slow. Sometimes it keeps putting itself out. You can interpret that however you want. The way I personally interpret it, when it burns up real quick, I'm like, wow, there must have been a lot of stuff hanging around that needed to be released because, goes up quick. So while you're doing your walkthrough and you're imagining smoke coming out and you're just letting it go in everything, you go if there's an attic, you go if there's a basement, go around, if you want to go around the outside, you can do that. Again, do you need it? No. Do you want to use it? Use it. That's fine. The feathers, you can buy fans pre-made. I didn't purchase any because they're a little more expensive depending on how ornate you want them. These were actually from a guinea fowl that kind of adopted us. He was like a stray, and he used to hang around on our porch, and we'd feed him cat food and stuff. And one day I woke up, I was heartbroken because I thought he was dead, but there was like a whole bunch of feathers in the bush, and he was fine, but he left me a whole bunch of feathers, so I made a little smudge fan out of them. The other big feather I use is from a turkey buzzard, and my husband found that on the lawn. So I like to find feathers. I believe that they're from the angels too. Obviously they're from birds, but I believe that they're messages from the angels. So if you had feathers that you found and you wanted to use them for this purpose, I recommend that. I think it means more that way. I mean, you could buy something and bless it as yours, because we're going to talk about that in a minute. Right now we're talking about choosing your tools, but yes, it's up to you to bless your tools. Unless you want to take your tools to a priest and have him bless them, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I believe that we can do that for ourselves. And, as long as you're setting the intention on what the purpose is that you're going to use it for, then, it's as good as if somebody else did it, So, I should have put up the picture of them, huh?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Sorry, guys. That might help instead of just me trying to show you everything. I'll get the hang of the clicker, don't worry. Okay, so we talked about the white sage. This would be the Palo Santo. This is a fragrant wood. It smells a little bit like burning rubber when you burn it, but it's very fragrant. The smell will stay, the sage will stay in the air for a long time after you burn it. So will the Palo Santo. Same thing, you would light this, it might flame a little, but you really just want it to smolder. You don't want it to, and this you could kind of just walk around or use a feather, same thing. But with this you got to watch it because sometimes it will burn fast, so you're going to want to have, again, something you can put it in because when it gets going really good, the whole thing will burn and it'll leave you just ashes, so you want something to catch the ashes. But the sage would be from the Native American tradition, and the Palo Santo is more from your South America and Central American traditions. I know they use it in Ecuador, they use it in Peru and down there. But again, this could be used as a smudge. That's the Palo Santo, and what Palo Santo means is holy wood. That's what the words mean. The copal is used also in Central America, South America. This is like what the Mayans, I was first introduced to this when I got into like going to the crystal skull stuff, and everybody with the ancient crystal skulls loves to burn this. It smells a lot different than the other things. I love the way this smells. The charcoal puts out a lot of smoke because this you would take one of these are self-igniting charcoals. You would hold a lighter to this and it starts to spark. And when part of it starts to spark, you put it down and the whole thing will spark and the whole charcoal burns. Like you'll see it'll start to burn. So you can see it's like a little dish in here. You would take, as soon as the little piece, starts sparking, you would put it, and this I would use metal or the terracotta with the thick bottom. You'd put it in there and it would start smoking, and then you would take little chunks of the copal, which is a resin. And if I could get the bag open. You would put a chunk, right on the the charcoal, and it would melt, and it would make smoke all over. Now the smoke will get really thick in the house, but it never seems to set off my smoke alarm, and it dissipates really fast. Oh, that's the other thing. When smudging, keep a window open, cracked, because all of the smudges, what they do is the smoke attaches to the positive ions that are in the room. This is a little science for you. Positive ions are not so good for us. Negative ions are better for us. That's why they tell us go near running water, go near like Niagara Falls. You're supposed to feel like a high when you're by all that running water. Has to do with the negative ions. That's where people get into the Himalayan salt lamps, because they put out the negative ions. Or like the Jade Mat puts out the negative ions. What happens when you're smudging is all that bad positive ion gets attached to the smoke, and you want to leave a way for it to get out. So, most buildings aren't airtight anyway, but leave a window cracked so that it'll take all those positive ions out, and then you could have, if you have a fountain running or something like that, that would put back the negative ions, which are actually good for us. So, that would be how you would do the copal with the charcoal. And Nag Champa. Nag Champa is probably the simplest thing for you to use, and I have 3 different varieties of it here. Nag Champa is actually a brand of incense made by the Satya Sai Baba company. Sai Baba is an Indian guru. He's one of these people that they believe is an avatar here on earth, like the divine in person. They believe that they were never reincarnated. They came here as divine beings to teach the rest of us whatever. Okay. Not here to sell you on the man or the avatar, but I do love his incense. And when I learned how to do clearings, when I was taking Reiki, they told me that Nag Champa was one of the things you could use. At the time, I said, "Oh, good, I like Nag Champa," and I would use it. Since then, I've learned why I think they use it. Nag Champa, what it is it's actually a combination of frangipani fragrance and sandalwood. And what the frangipani is, it's from the plumeria blossom. Plumeria is used, when you see in Hawaii, they make all the leis with the flowers. Those are usually plumeria blossoms. They're very fragrant. And what I found when I was researching all this is that plumeria, in many different traditions, in addition to being used in like the temples and stuff like that in Tibet and everything, it was traditionally seen as a fragrance that harbored ghosts and spirits and attracted the spirits of the dead. And they would plant it, probably because it was so fragrant, in cemeteries and around graveyards. And when you get into the combination with the sandalwood is seen as a fragrance or substance that gets one closer to the divine. So through this research, I figured that's why they use this in clearings, is because it's going to attract the spirits of the dead, and it's going to bring them closer to the divine. So, because I never really asked the person that taught me, well, why do you use Nag Champa? I just said, okay, sounds good, and I liked it, and I started using it. But I do believe that's why they use the Nag Champa, because it's thought to attract those, there's, when I was looking it up, they said it's also tied to legends of the vampire in Malay culture, and, it's a lot to do with, the different traditions believe that it attracts the undead or the spirits of the dead. So, with the combination, it's going to attract them and then bring them closer to the divine. So, and there's many different, there's this one is the one that says Nag Champa on it, the red, white, and blue box. Smells a little different. I love this one. It's all the ones that say, like, if you look at the boxes, they have this blue border. Any ones that say the Nag Champa here are considered Nag Champa, but this company makes, like, coconut champa, bless you, banana champa, like, all different ones. This one I love. It says it's supposed to be good to get rid of negativity of all zodiac signs. Smells good. Mm-hmm. I like it. And this is straight up sandalwood, if you just wanted the sandalwood. I brought the most of these because I figured that's the easiest for everyone, and if anyone needs incense burners, I have those available too. These actually these are cones, they come with a little burner right inside, so if you wanted to burn the cone, and again, you would light them. Incense is the same thing. You light it, you let it flame a little bit, then the tip will glow, and you blow it out, and it just smolders. That's how you would use all of them. All right, I gotta go a little quicker because we're getting towards the end of our time here. Wands. I mentioned using wands. I have, this is my general healing wand. Yes, I'm into crystal skulls. Yes, when I go to do a house clearing, I don't always show the skull because some people might get scared by the skull and they might not understand what it's about. But when I'm putting out energy, when I'm emitting the Reiki, a lot of times I will hold this and I visualize like a fountain, because in the Reiki tradition, the energy comes out my hands. So I see it as like, the citrine is a very cleansing stone, and it attracts prosperity, it attracts joy. It never needs to be cleansed itself, so it's very good at transmuting negative energy. So when I'm putting the Reiki energy out, what the Reiki is the universal energy, like the life force or the prana. There's many different names for it. It's the Japanese name for it. I visualize like a fountain filling the space, and just, that would be like the step where you would emit love. You haven't been trained as a Reikiist, but you can do what you're capable of doing. It's the same principle. I mentioned how this wand I use sort of as a sweeper, when I'm working on people. Just, you've had this, you like it. I made her a wand like it. She loved it so much. But, yeah. And these are some of the stones you can use. You don't have to use crystals as a wand. You can just use them to carry for protection. Like if you wanted to, you could put a citrine in the leftmost corner of your house, in the leftmost room. That's going to help keep the vibrations of joy and prosperity and keep that energy being transmuted. You just set it and forget it, and because it never needs to be cleansed. If you're using citrine, set it and forget it. If you were using a stone, you could also use a tiger eye, but then I would energetically cleanse this from time to time, because it's not like the citrine, where the citrine stays clean. Another stone you could use for shielding negativity is hematite, and it's also very grounding. So if you have trouble staying in your body when you meditate and stuff like that, you might want to try the hematite, because that's going to nail you down a little bit. Hematite's also very reflective. So what it'll do is, if you're in a situation like if you have a job and everybody's negative around you and you carry a piece of hematite, it'll kind of just roll it back at the people that it's coming from. DZI is like that as well. DZI is a carved Tibetan agate. It looks like an eyeball. Oh.
More pictures.
Oh. I'm terrible at the clicker. I'm sorry. Just poke me. Yeah, here's pictures. Imagine that. Instead of me going like this, right? This is the one that looks like the eyeball. That's another way it would look. Sometimes they have a hole drilled in them, so you can put them on a necklace. They ward off the evil eye. A technique that I learned from one of my teachers, you can put them in the windows of your house facing outward. So if you wanted to keep things from coming in after you did your clearing, just set one in each window. And it just looks like a little eyeball. It also will, if you have a situation where somebody's like sending negativity your way, it'll make them aware of it so that they can stop. It won't do any harm back to them, but it'll send it back to them so they realize what they're doing, and it's been used for that. I have an amethyst here. The amethyst is also thought to shield people from psychic attack. I mean, there's hundreds of meanings for each stone. I'm just dwelling on the protective qualities at this point. But if you look them up, amethyst does tons more stuff than that. But it is used for shielding you from psychic attack. If you wanted to invite in the angels to protect your home, a good stone to work with is pink manganocalcite. It's a nice stone for opening up the angelic vibration and helping you to communicate with those levels if that was something you wanted to do. Labradorite is also very protective. It protects your aura from unwanted energies. These are labradorite and fluorite. This is fluorite with kyanite. This is just an example of something you could wear. Not some of my better work. This was one of my early wire wraps that my husband used to wear. It was more about function than look. It's kind of chunky. But that's why I brought these skulls. These 3 skulls are fluorite, and this one is labradorite. A lot of times, if I'm going to do clearing in person, I have a big bag that weighs about 20 pounds, and this is why, because yes, it is full of rocks. The fluorite prevents hooks from getting into your aura, and from, like we talk about spirit attachment and things like that. I'm all about the shielding. The more the better. I like to see myself as an armadillo when I go in, like with my armor on. I make it a daily practice to protect myself every day. So, if this is something like, you want to get into, you got to protect yourself all the time. You can't just, protect yourself only when you need to, I never know when somebody's going to call me up, hey, can you clear my house? And believe me, it happens. I do it. So, but, yeah. So I'll carry my labradorite and my fluorite because they're very protective of your energy field. They stop things from you picking up things that you don't want. And then another thing you can use is, we've all heard of holy water. This is actually from my mother-in-law, and not to be rude or sacrilegious, it's a very old bottle. I don't use it very often. This is from, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Mother Angelica on television. My mother-in-law is really into her. So this comes from her monastery in Alabama. And I have used it. I just, don't really use it now. But you can make your own holy water. I also have a bottle of water at home that somebody gave me. They got it from one of the healing wells in Ireland that's seen as Brigid's Well. There's many of these wells throughout the countryside. I don't carry that with me because I don't want to spill it. It's not in a bottle like this. You can bless salt on your own, because salt is another thing you could use. I didn't bring any. They do make, and I have information like the salt lamps you can use in your home. That also helps with the electromagnetic smog that comes off of your computers and stuff like that. This is good for putting out the negative ions that I was talking about earlier. But also from a standpoint of sealing your boundaries, you can take sea salt or Himalayan salt, and just bless it with your own intention, surround it with love, make it sacred for your purpose of sealing your boundaries of your home. And you would just sprinkle it around the boundary of the room, in front of the doorways. I recommend, if you're doing a clearing and you have a lot of mirrors, you set up something specific in front of the mirrors, because mirrors, especially if they're facing each other, can invite in a lot of energetic stuff. Happens with mirrors. It bounces energy and light and all things like that. So those are all things you can do. Salt technically is a crystal, so it would fall under that category, but those are all different techniques. Questions?
I think I might have asked you this once before. Tourmaline and Apache too.
Tourmaline, black tourmaline, I'm assuming you're asking about, is grounding, very grounding and protective for your energy field. Apache tear also would be, I know Apache tear is grounding and it helps transmute negativity. But I know a lot of people use black tourmaline for protection. Yeah, there's a lot of stones that are, you can open up a crystal encyclopedia and I guarantee every single one of them is used for protection. Yeah. I mean, what else do I have here? I have tiger eye. Tiger eye is a personal favorite. Hematite. I have blue tiger eye. But yeah, I mean, use whatever resonates with you. And when it comes to crystals, what I like to tell people is if you're attracted to it or called to it, definitely get it, because it's your intuition's probably trying to tell you. And then take yourself on a little journey of learning about it afterwards, because that's where you're going to learn the most, because they're all good. I once had somebody ask me, well, what crystals are used for bad? And I said, what are you talking about? I says, they're a tool. It's, they can all be used for good. They can all be used for bad. If not that the books are going to tell you to use them for bad, but it's like anything. Nothing is, but when you look at the books, they're all, good. So you end up like me with wanting one of everything. And, that gets pricey, but it's fun. Yes.
So let's say you're coming in to clear this space.
Right.
You come in through the door. Do you stand in the middle? Do you go clock, counterclock?
I would, if it was just a case where, with using the Reiki, I would do a walkthrough first. with smudging.
So it doesn't matter which way you
I
go
don't
first.
think it does. No, I mean the way we were taught, yes, like because I know what you're thinking of with the Reiki class you're taught. When I was taught with Reiki, you're taught to go to the leftmost room and start in the leftmost corner and work counterclockwise and do your symbols in every corner, and then do every room, and then go outside and do all the property. And yeah, that's a technique. When I started actually doing clearings, they told me I didn't have to do all that, that I could do a walkthrough and then stand in the center. And that's basically what I based this on without the Reiki, because not everybody's attuned to do Reiki here.
So then open the window and just do the walkthrough and then stand in the middle and
Yeah, like I would do the walkthrough with the smudging, but they don't even have to smudge. They can just walk through with their intention. I would do the walkthrough and then plant myself in the middle and just, I call it love bomb, just emit good energy. Because the whole purpose is once you've removed all the stuff you don't want, there's room now. There's space. You know, if you took something out, there's space for something more. So you want to put good out. This way there's no space for if the bad tries to come back, you filled it all with good. And, you know, not to sound like a fool or anything, but, you know, give it a little burst every now and then, you know, a little happy juice or whatever. And it really does keep the energy levels up. It sounds stupid, I know. And believe me, I live with my husband, so it's not always easy to do. But, you know, when you got a grumpy person, which my husband is a lot of the time, I mean, he's a good guy, but, you know, he has challenges with staying happy. And, you know, so every bit of intent you could put out, that's good, you know. So those are the tools. Any other questions about the tools? Anything specific? And like I said, if anybody wanted to pick some up, I have them, you know, basically for what I paid for them. I also have cards if anyone wanted. The shop that I go to that has all of the stuff is down in Clifton. You could find it at different places. You know, they'll have sage or they'll have certain things. But as far as like the Copal and the Palo Santo, that's pretty much the only place I found it. Was down there. Any questions about doing the walkthrough at all? And that's once you have your tools, you're going to just do a walkthrough, you know, whether if you're going to sage it or smudge it with any of the other tools. If you didn't want to smudge and you wanted to just hold a crystal for protection, that's fine. Like I said, you don't need the tools. It's about your intent. So, any other questions about that? Everybody have an idea what I'm talking about with that. I'm turning everybody into flower children. Peace. Give peace a chance. And always thank your reinforcements. Always. And always affirm the process.
Just another thing from
Sure.
what I had seen from religious ceremonies about, I asked my parents, for instance, if they had their house blessed. And they said when they had it built, God came and just came in the house and said, bless this house. But when I read about how to get things out of there, you're supposed to open every closet, every drawer, all the windows, and go from room to room to get things out.
That's a technique. That's that's why I like the smoke. The smoke goes through things. When I am doing long distance clearing and I'm mainly relying on my visualization and my Reiki symbols and things, and this was something my guides had told me to do when I did my first long distance clearing. It was for a family member, for my sister. And the situation was, you know, she was having unwanted activity in her apartment and stuff, and she asked me to do the clearing. I visualized, you know, when you buy one of those, and this is going to sound really wonderful, those Raid bug bombs, and it's like the can, and you have to like leave for however long. I envisioned putting out the Reiki energy and doing, they're not Reiki symbols when I do a clearing, they're angelic symbols that were channeled by my teacher. So those are the actual symbols that do the clearing. They're binding, you bind anything you don't want to the light, and then you call in the angels to remove them. I envisioned me like a bug bomb, just pushing out my intent into every crevice of the building, like, because I was not there in person, I saw it going into like the wood of the walls and the wires in the walls and just everything. So this is where you can rely on visualization. You don't have to physically, and I've done, I don't know how many clearings long distance, and the people do feel a difference. I mean, they do, you know, they'll tell me afterwards, like, oh, well, you know, they noticed a change in people's moods or a change in everything, you know.
Bye. 18 minutes. We're closing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So it's, you know, you can make it as involved as you want, or you can make it, and I'm not knocking anybody else's way, because I believe they all work. And, you know, I know as a child, when you know, being raised Catholic, they used to come with the chalk, and they used to write, like, the three kings' names, or whatever they would write on the doorway, and they had their holy water, and they were, you know, splashing it all around the house and stuff like that. And if holy water resonates with you, or any of the tools, you know, it's mainly about your intent, and the tools are secondary, you know.
Just looking at it from any spiritual aspect, you're asking things to leave. That doesn't mean they can't come back.
Absolutely, but the way I believe this works, and this is a personal belief through my experience, the ones that are earthbound can't interfere with our free will. I mean, they can try, and they can try to intimidate you into feeling the victim, into playing the victim role, but when you put your foot down and claim your boundaries, you know, they might rise up, like, and this is where I'm saying feel your connection with your spirituality, because while this is going on, I can't promise you that you might not encounter some kind of activity while you're doing your walkthrough. I mean, I'm not trying to scare people, but, you know, I've had people tell me that have been with me on clearings, they'll feel nauseous if they're sensitive to energy, or, you know, you'll encounter, you know, different things, just like, you know, if you're in a house that has paranormal activity, you got to be realizing, you know, this is going to be their last hurrah to try to intimidate you. So, you know, and if it gets to the point where you're in that much fear, that's when you call in somebody that's not going to, you know, be in that position. Yes.
You can also add to the fact that you can shield your house and your property as well from anything unwanted
Right.
coming in. And you know, do that every so often just to keep it up and build it up and things like that.
I cleared my house before I came here today. I clear my house like once a week.
But isn't it also, because again, and you know, I look at demonology, it's the behaviors and the attitudes of the occupants of the area that are the problem. That they draw
To a certain
back.
extent, because I think there can be residual stuff, but I also think we have the ability to heal
Do you
whatever is
counsel people
residually
after you
there.
clear to
What?
check themselves before they wreck themselves?
Wait, I know that was funny, and I want to hear it. I didn't hear what you said. I missed the punchline. I'm sorry.
After you clear a house or an area, do you talk to the people about correcting their behaviors?
Oh yes, and I tell them anytime they feel negativity building up, you know, because I tell them if you've got funky people coming in with energy, I usually don't like to tell them that it's them. I'll say if you've got people coming over that are like funky, you know, and then they'll usually think to themselves. But I'll say, you know, if you had somebody visit you that kind of was funky and in a bad mood, do this after they leave. You know, I don't like to point the finger at the person. But I find in a lot of what's going on with these clearings, sometimes, because I'm not specifically going to communicate with the spirits, sometimes friendly spirits will make themselves known to me. They'll give me a name, they'll give me a mind's eye vision of who they are, and then I'll go back and tell the person, and they'll say, oh, I know who that was. It was so-and-so who worked on the house before I bought it, or that was Aunt blah, 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 or Uncle so-and-so. Like the legit, I call them legits, those are the ones that can come and go. They've, in my theory, have gone to the light, come back, and they can come say hello when they want, just like we can. The earthbounds are usually the nuisance ones, and this technique, for whatever reason, they are bound, when you, especially when you call in the reinforcements, because there's a spiritual hierarchy at work. And, you know, that's where I say I think you kind of have a little advantage if that's your belief system, because that adds to, you're not just believing in yourself, now you're believing in, you're opening it up to something else, whatever that may be. you know, and I'm not claiming to know it, so, but I'm open to it, you know. I stick with high healing beings of light. That's kind of my catchphrase, so. Any other questions? Yes.
What happens to all these demons, spirits, after you've cleared them away?
In my intention, and I do have it in the notes, which I believe we're gonna have the notes
We're
up.
gonna- Yeah, we've
recorded
this, so we're gonna have it all up on the website.
Yeah, so if you
And,
wanted to go
our
over it.
YouTube, I should say.
I hold the intention that they be transmuted. There's things you can use, like if you're into light working and stuff like that, there's a tool called the Violet Flame. It was given to us by Saint Germain, who is an ascended master, and anybody can use it. It transmutes unwanted energy to a higher vibration. So, you know, you can ask Jesus to transmute the energy. You can ask the angels to transmute the energy. Hold it in your intent that you would like the energy to be transmuted to love, to peace, to joy. You know, otherwise, if you're releasing it, it's just going to go pollute somewhere else, but then it's not your problem anymore, so. Just don't cross the streams, right, Dave? All right, so if there's no more questions, I thank you. Thank you for putting up with me, and I hope you all get some use.